Welcome to Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJ TV studio in Newark. In this particular edition of Think Tank, we talk about teen bullying and abuse, the cycle that needs to be broken. We have 4 experts here in our studio. Let me introduce them. We're first joined by our friend Marsha Atkind, who is the Executive Director and CEO of the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey. Dr. Samara Grossman is the Director of Triple Threat Theater Camp at JCC MetroWest. Lillian Rivera is the Executive Director of the Hetrick-Martin Institute, New Jersey. And finally, Dr. Ivan Lamourt is the Assistant Headmaster at St. Benedict's Preparatory School in beautiful Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. Marsha, let me start with you. Sure. When we started talking about this, we're doing this program actually in cooperation with the Healthcare Foundation. We had a forum a couple months back, discussion, a whole range of folks on this. If you could define the cycle that we need to break, what is it?
Oh, I think the cycle is that somebody picks on somebody else. And maybe they start out being friends, maybe they start out being nice to each other, and then the aggressor starts bullying the other person thinks maybe it's my fault, maybe I should have done something differently. And then maybe the bullier at some point apologizes because there's an emotional incident between the two of them, and there's a honeymoon period, and then they start again. I know that that's true in domestic relationships and dating relationships. I suspect it's true in all kinds of bullying relationships.
And that's the cycle that has to be broken.
Absolutely.
How significant is it, Doctor, that you see the cycle?
It's
abuse and bullying.
It's critical for us to understand that a lot of times what ends up happening is that that young child who is now beginning to...
By the way, I want to make clear, I'm sorry for interrupting. You have an all-boys
prep school,
yes, go ahead.
Here in Newark. So that young man or that young person that begins to bully that other person then begins to experience a power over that person that they want to keep. And they want to begin to, I think, create a situation where they're able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, because from that, they gain self-esteem. I think when you look at a lot of kids that engage in that bullying, these kids struggle with tremendous self-esteem issues. And the only way they're going to feel better is by pushing you down and knocking you down. You see it especially with boys, boys that can be aggressive, but aren't taught how to manage their feelings and emotions, because men don't talk about feelings and emotions. We just don't have them, we don't talk about it. And for us, it's critical to help men understand especially, but also for all of us, that it's our job to help kids understand their feelings so they can respond to them appropriately.
Well, let me try this. Lillian, I'm curious about this. Dr. Lamourt is talking about young boys being aggressive, being bullies, abusing others. Do you think that it is worse in boys than in girls?
Well, I think aggressive behavior is sanctioned and supported in society from boys. So I think they get the green light in many, many ways. Some of it is overt, some is not. And boys are taught that this is an appropriate way to express feelings in our society, unlike crying or sadness or tenderness, right?
Or empathy.
Right, they're not taught those qualities. They're not socialized to really leverage those feelings. Therefore, they have this one note that they can play, so they capitalize on that, which really hurts them.
Let me ask you this quick follow-up before I come to you, Doctor. Not conforming to quote-unquote gender stereotypes make it worse?
Definitely make it worse. You become a target.
If what?
If you are a young boy who likes to wear dresses, if you are a boy who likes to paint their nails, if you're a girl who doesn't like to wear dresses, perhaps likes to wear suits, you become a target. Young people see that you're diverging around what they thought was boy and girl behavior and boy and girl attire. And then they are the target for, it starts with comments.
Sure.
Then harassment, then violence. So gender nonconformity in our society really is not anything that we've historically allowed.
Let me try this, Doctor. I want to come to you on this, and all of you can jump in on this. By the way, this is Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. This series is all about having meaningful conversations with people in our region about issues that, frankly, are national in scope. Bullying has gone on forever. Abusing others has gone on forever. But technology, handheld devices, the cyber bullying and abuse part of it, how does it complicate things?
It complicates things tremendously because it's safe for the bully to not be known.
How so?
because they're behind a screen and they don't have to verbally say it and they're not accountable. They don't have to look someone in the eye and say these things to their face. They do it from behind a screen,
But that's not what I
from their
mean, yeah.
phone.
And everybody knows it, right?
it.
So it's not just
What do you mean?
between you and me. Maybe you say something or I
Right,
say
everyone
something
can see
mean.
it. Correct.
Everyone can see it. So the person who's being bullied is even more mortified than they might be.
Right. And a lot of times with kids, what you find out is that they'll hide behind, well, that's not what I meant. You took it the wrong way. And immediately it's the victim's fault. These devices are absolutely crippling our kids because they don't know how to interact with each other in appropriate ways. That and the fact that they're being taught this, that they're being taught to be aggressive at home, which is something that no one wants to
Excuse me for
talk about.
interrupting, Doctor. They're being taught to be bullies, to be abusive in their home?
Whenever kids aren't allowed to talk about their emotions freely, whenever kids aren't allowed to be able to freely express emotion without fear of retribution from their parents, that's a seed that gets planted, and then kids begin to act that out. It's not a malicious thing where parents raise their kids to be bullies.
Right.
Sometimes because you haven't grown and you haven't experienced this, you're passing this on. That's why this is a generational issue for us.
You know what's so interesting? I'll have you come back into this. One of the series we're also doing is called Right from the Start, NJ. It's about infants and toddlers and those first 3 years of life and its impact. And one of the areas we focus on is ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. That 70–80% of us have experienced them, right, in one form or another, and the long-term effect. I'm curious about this. Are these adverse childhood experiences that we were talking about that young people are having as teenagers being bullied and abused, whether it's online or in person, mocked, ridiculed, left out, all kinds of things, are they adverse childhood experiences?
I would say
Without a
sure.
doubt.
I would say so.
Absolutely.
And what do you think the implications truly are, as opposed to people watching going, come on, just get tough, get through it, you say?
Right. I don't think they have the opportunity to. I think that because schools have so many procedures and so much protocol, the accountability isn't there, and they are left to either flounder for themselves, like you said, they don't have their families to communicate with, or everyone is so busy, so overscheduled, these conversations aren't happening. And this, I will suggest, also is fostering this mob
I don't know if
mentality.
the camera got there. You see the hands are going like this, right? And that's fostering it because you said
Correct.
it's easier.
Correct?
I'm curious about this, the role of parents in all this, because we were having this conversation before we went on the air. We were actually talking about our daughter, Olivia, and I asked her about this. Do you ever see bullying? She's like, I don't think so. Sometimes the boys in the schoolyard pull the girl's hair, and and what happens then? And I'm thinking, is that bullying? Is that abuse? Well, it could be the beginning. What's the difference between that, Lillian, and the way kids are at 8 years old? You say?
Yeah, I think it's how it's regulated, right?
Define regulated.
Yeah, I think it's how the adults respond. If I see my Olivia running after someone and pulling someone's hair, as a parent, I'm going to intervene and say, Olivia, that's not okay.
Same here.
Absolutely not. Right. We don't treat our friends this way. These are not values.
We don't treat anyone that way.
No, we don't treat anyone. These are not our family values. And the way we speak to people, the way we interact with people, if we ask people, can I hold your hand, right? If we know how to ask for consent, that culture is very different than allowing just young people to be physically abusive towards each
And it's
other.
not
And it can go even further.
What do you
So
mean?
we were talking before we got on the air about an incident that my late son had when he was, I think it was junior high school. There was a kid in his class who was a serial bullier, I'm going to say, okay? He picked on different kids at different times. The kids all knew that, but nobody really did anything about it. And everybody who was being bullied felt bad. So one day they get into science lab, and he takes my son's backpack and he dumps it out on the floor. And Russ fills it back up again and sits on the chair. And this kid does it again. And what did my son do? He socked him. So, should he have hit him? No, he shouldn't have. But my son got suspended, and the other kid wasn't punished at all.
What was the message there, Marsha?
The message was that it's okay to be the bullier, but it's not okay to defend yourself.
And
It's not
what
okay.
advice would you have given, or did you give?
Well, it was after the fact, so there was
Okay.
no advice. So I said to him, listen, it's not okay to hit people, but on the other hand, you defended yourself, and I'm glad you did.
I would do. Okay, I would do the same thing, but I know there are people watching right now who say that's the wrong advice. So what does the book tell us? Those are my air quotes. Right. What does the book tell us as parents as to what to tell our kids if, in fact, they are victims of bullying?
Well, let's take a step back for a second. I've said it before. Schools are the largest socializing agency in the country. So you have to ask the question, what are we teaching our kids?
In schools?
In schools. What are we teaching our kids? So I have to ask the question, in a situation like that, that was not the first time that happened. Who saw it?
Right. It wasn't. It was the first time to my son, but it wasn't the first time this kid. Right.
And I think that we think about discipline and punishment, which is not the way that we should think about it. What was going on with that young man? That was the only way that he was able to express powerful feelings and emotions. He was going to pick on somebody.
You mean
else.
the bullier?
The bullier.
Yeah. Okay. What would have happened at St. Benedict's Prep? I was going to say Seton Hall Prep, where our kids happen to go to school. I don't know. It might be the same. I have no idea.
I'll forgive you. That's
okay. See, what's the right? Never mind. I'm going to leave. That's another show. That's another show. Policy, and not just policy, but the culture at your school. What would happen?
You have to create a culture of love. We had an old monk that when he was asked about educational policy, people were talking about the pedagogy and all this, and Brother Dennis looked at everybody and said, "Just love the kids. Love the kids." We have to be willing to raise children. And that's something that we don't want to do. We want to throw policy at them. We want to have administrators. We want to have all sorts of things. We don't talk about mental health issues at school, where kids can begin to get the help that they need to be better adults. And we don't address these powerful issues of growing. Being an adolescent is hard. It's hard just remember back to when you were doing it.
Yeah, by the way, you have a safe haven for theater kids?
Right.
What is it? Could you describe it? I'll come back to Lillian, I promise.
Programs like a theater program provide a space where kids can be themselves and they know that we love them for who they are. Something that really was poignant to me was, I think communication is really the key. And if we're talking to the kids, novel idea, but if we're communicating with the kids and foster this notion of just talking, communicating, then we know about this. Oh, so-and-so was, I mean, you're not tattling, and as the adult, I don't have to do anything about it. But now I know, and now I can look out for it, and I know before it becomes this thing. I think that's really important. And
but it's put out there in the open, in that spirit.
Yeah, I think each and every institution has a culture.
Institution.
Yes. A school, a theater program, a
church,
youth agency, a church.
Whatever.
Everything that we walk into, there's a culture, and we learn it. And if we invest in a culture that children can see themselves valued, can see themselves included, that we're really clear about the expectations around their behavior. At my school, this whole entire year, it's been be kind, be nice, be respectful. The children say it in their sleep this year because the school leader has chosen to sow this through everything that they do every single day. They hear it every day. They talk about it every day. Once a month, a parent comes in and does an activity around it. This is the culture that he wants in his school that we are supporting as parents, that we talk about at home.
And by the way, a couple things real quick. When we were talking about gender issues, is that separate from the LGBTQ question?
No, it's very integrated, because that's why gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender kids are targeted. Not because
More than anyone else.
More than anyone else. That's why their suicide rates are higher. I don't know what people's sexual orientation is, but I know when a boy is feminine. I know when a girl is masculine. I really don't know who they're attracted to, and that's why they're targeted.
Got it. Marsha, can we nationalize this?
Yeah, sure.
I said I might bring this up. The national discourse in our country, the obsessive name-calling, ridiculing, mocking of people's appearance, not only by the president, who this isn't debatable. You just check the Twitter feed, and by others who have a different political philosophy, who do comparable things. To what degree does the national discourse and the ugly nature of it influence teen bullying and abuse and breaking the cycle?
I'm no expert, but I think it does.
I asked you your gut.
My gut is that it absolutely does. I think it gives permission and it creates a role model. These people who are saying this on TV and whatever are role models for other people. And if young people see them behaving the way they're behaving, then they have to say, well, why can't I do that? That's okay. Our leaders are doing that. There are leaders.
There are leaders. They're supposed to be our role models.
And you said it
Real
right.
quick, Ivan.
You said it right. It's ugly. And people aren't willing to do what you just did. This is ugly. And at one point, are we going to say as a society, we're not going to tolerate this anymore?
What about folks who say, I like that. I like when people say it the way it is and are rough and nasty. I'm like, okay, but would you want that for your kid? Would you want that for your kid to be, A, doing it, B, on the other end?
And respect is, first and foremost, what's important. Correct.
This is leading into something that I just wanted to interject, which is that we were talking about physical bullying a lot in this conversation, and boys bullying. But girls can be pretty mean also, and they can bully at very mean.
So the movie Mean Girls ain't just a movie.
No.
Right.
Real.
How
How do I protect? How do we protect our kids? I want to protect our daughter from it. Can I?
Yes.
And also, seriously, Ivan.
You did, whenever you're able to talk to your child.
Yeah, but I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm not going to be there when it happens. It's not about me. It's about any parents.
Resiliency is taught, and it's taught in small increments so that as kids are growing up, they're able to go back on those lessons and become resilient. It just doesn't happen like that. So what you do every day at that kitchen table, talking to your child, letting your child know that it's okay, powerful.
Hold on, a few seconds, go.
Values. If they know who they are and value themselves and know what they value in friendship, then they'll be able to say, oh, no, I don't think that person is the type of friend I want to be around.
I tell you what, I cannot thank all of you enough. I wish we had more time. And Marsha, thank you for helping to facilitate this.
Oh,
but the other part of this conversation that I hope you stay tuned for right now, right after this break, is I had a chance to sit down with Joe Clementi, the father of Tyler Clementi. He'll speak for himself and tell you that story, the tragic loss of Tyler Clementi and what it has meant to Joe and his family, and frankly to all of us in society. It's about breaking the cycle of teen bullying and abuse.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, the New Jersey Education Association, the Russell Berry Foundation, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, NJM Insurance Group, and by Georgian Court University. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.